York.
Even in the liberal 60s, its in-your-face humor was something TV had never seen.
This is WNBC for New York. And now, this is News for New York.
Good evening, I'm Sue Simmons.
And I'm Chuck Scarborough.
A warning tonight for President Clinton as he continues to wrestle with a political hand grenade, gays in the military.
Well, the president's plan to end the ban on homosexuals in the service continues to meet fierce resistance tonight, both from the military and on Capitol Hill. At least 2 Marine officers are warning of violence in the ranks if this ban is lifted. But as Sandy Gilmore reports, Mr. Clinton may be working out a compromise tonight with congressional leaders.
President Clinton called in his defense secretary and members of the Senate Armed Services Committee for a 2-hour meeting. They strongly urged Clinton to take no immediate executive action, ending the prohibition on homosexuals in the military, in exchange for holding down a brewing revolt in Congress, which could make the ban permanent.
Questions that we need to think through, and in exchange for that, let's have the executive branch exercise restraint in taking decisive final action on the executive side.
The original Clinton plan was to issue an executive order overturning the prohibition on gays. Now, Clinton may still order an end to asking recruits about their sexual orientation, but the issue of ending the discharging of gays from the military will now be discussed further. And there will be congressional hearings on all issues before any final action is taken by President Clinton, not less than 6 months from now.
It's complicated, and I think he wants to be sure that the long-term goal is served as opposed to short-term, some arbitrary deadline. I think the people who are involved in the process now feel like the process is working well, that their concerns are being heard, that a framework will be created that is actually workable.
Irate opponents of gays in the military are flooding the Capitol and White House phones. Despite the last-minute compromise and apparent backing off by Clinton, the White House insists he remains committed to ending the ban on gays. Liberalizing the policy on homosexuals in the military is certain to be one of the most divisive issues of the Clinton presidency. But the president says he is determined to carry through on a campaign promise, no matter what the cost. Sandy Gilmore, NBC News, the White House.
Tonight, a spokesman for a Washington-based gay rights group, the Human Rights Campaign Fund, says he would welcome an open congressional debate on the gay issue because he says it would educate the American public about discriminatory practices.
The fight over gays in the military could turn out to be a snag for family leave legislation. The Clinton-supported bill gives workers up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for family emergencies. The proposal's moving rapidly through the House, and the Senate version of the bill could come up later this week. But some Senate Republicans have threatened to attach an amendment banning gays from the military. That could stall the bill on Capitol Hill. On the Hill today, congressional leaders and other mourners paid tribute to the late Thurgood Marshall, the nation's first African-American Supreme Court justice. Thousands lined up to file past his casket as it lay in state in the Supreme Court building. His coffin rested on the same black draped bier that once held the caskets of Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Marshall's funeral will be held tomorrow.
In Tampa, Florida today, a man who was fired went on a murderous rampage of revenge. He hunted down his bosses in the company cafeteria, shooting and killing 3 people and wounding 2. Kerry Sanders reports.
Inside an office building cafeteria, a man's anger explodes. And without warning, bullets begin to fly.
It was just people laying all around. The bodies. It was a mess.
Cops say 33-year-old Paul Calden marked his victims for death. Calden once worked for Fireman's Fund Insurance Company, but 8 months ago, the claims manager was fired. Co-workers remember Calden was confrontational, but none suspected him capable of calmly walking into the cafeteria, spotting his former bosses at their usual table, and then unloading a 9mm pistol.
And the young guy just came in and he just shot all the people at one table, like he just wanted those people only, and that was it. And after he shot them, after the shots were all gone, everybody's on the floor, the man said something about being fired.
During the chaos, Calden escaped. Then, several hours later, 2 young boys in nearby Clearwater reported they saw someone commit suicide. It was Paul Calden. He had shot himself in the head. A frustrated man's revenge leaves behind 3 dead insurance company executives 2 others seriously injured, and a community that is confused.
That was Kerry Saunders reporting from Tampa, Florida. The Fireman's Fund Company tonight is flying in specialists to provide counseling for employees.
A pawn shop employee is under arrest tonight, busted in Orlando for gun running by a New York City cop who tracked him down. Police say the Florida pawn shop was being used to ship an arsenal of grenades and guns to New York, weapons to be sold on the streets. So Sergeant John Ryan traveled to Orlando to put an end to the operation. He joined a raid on the store, which ended when the suspect quickly surrendered. Another suspect has surrendered in Queens. Joe Foster is being held on murder charges tonight, accused of shooting a 58-year-old probation officer. Detectives are still investigating the circumstances. Officer Daniel Nolan was shot in the chest in Far Rockaway last night. Police are still searching for the murder weapon.
Well, somehow a man is alive tonight, even though he was stabbed through his head. Early this morning, 28-year-old Leon Nason was airlifted to Mount Sinai Hospital. Police say he got into an argument on a street corner in Lakewood, New Jersey last night. The man he was fighting pulled a knife and plunged it into Nason's ear, and the blade came out the back of his skull. He spent 11 hours on the operating table and is listed in guarded but stable condition tonight, and the surgery team is credited with saving his life. Efforts to save a 6-year-old schoolboy failed, and now his death is causing fear in Washington Heights. The child was suffering from meningitis, and tonight city health officials want to keep a meningitis alert from turning into a panic. Dave Browdy reports.
Andre Maldonado was just 6 years old, but at that age, he was a little older than those considered most at risk for bacterial meningitis. His parents say he died on Friday, 3 days after leaving school, with an asthma attack.
My wife was going to take him to the doctor, but we didn't have no one to take care of my other 2 children because I had to go to work the next morning. So she was waiting till the next morning to call her little brother and sister so they can come and take care of the children while she went to the doctor. That's when we woke up and we found our son dead on our bed.
At PS 132 today, frightened parents besieged the principal's office. There were rumors and recriminations, many of them false.
The parents were not notified about the child's condition, and that's why the parents are so upset.
In fact, the school sent out a letter to all students and parents on Monday, immediately after being notified that Andre had died of meningitis.
Our intent is not to create a hysteria, but we want to allay the fears of the community.
There are rumors that other youngsters at the school have been diagnosed with meningitis, but city officials say they are entirely false. Doctors here say there remains a small possibility over the next 3 days that someone who came into contact with Andres Maldonado before his death could develop meningitis, but they say that's a very small chance. Still, if you're concerned, you should consult your doctor. Dave Browdy, News 4, New York.
Well, now, if it is caught early, meningitis can be treated with antibiotics, and here are symptoms you should watch out for if you're a parent. High fever, stiff neck, headaches, unexplained rashes, nausea, and vomiting.
It could be a symptom of a serious problem, a high number of suicides among New York's EMS workers. What is happening on their job that could be to blame? Don Pertangelo rides with a life-saving team to find out the answer in tonight's Focus 4 report.
And later, authorities warn an outbreak of food poisoning blamed on a popular restaurant chain is spreading. We'll have that for you. Plus, we're going to look at a surprising new use for old toilets.
But first, here's Ira.
Well, Sue and Chuck, we are talking about January coming back in full force, at least on the thermometer. What about the sky? Stay tuned. We'll talk about what, if anything, might tumble from it. Your weather is straight ahead on News 4 New York.
Banks and other lenders are making it more difficult than ever to get a second mortgage these days. But at Champion, we're finding new ways to make it even easier. As one of the largest home equity lenders in the country, we have the lending power to offer the most competitive rates and the simplest application process in the industry. That's why so many people with excellent credit select Champion. Ask your bank if they can give you an answer within 24 hours. When your bank says no, Champion says yes.
I'm tired of his lies and his cheating. I can't trust him.
So she's divorcing him for the 3rd time. On the next Jerry Springer, they just keep marrying the same spouse.
There has got to be something to keep this going 3 times.
Dad says it's for the kids. His daughter says don't bother.
I remember coming into my house, seeing you with another woman.
That's right.
When I was 5, and I won't forget that.
Jerry Springer, the right talk, right now.
The Jerry Springer Show tomorrow at 11, only on WNBC 4 New York.
Opening arguments resume tomorrow in the trial of the doctor dubbed the Butcher of Avenue A. Dr. Abu Hayat faces 4 years in prison if he's convicted of botching abortions and other charges. One case in particular horrified those who heard about it. A young woman underwent an abortion but gave birth to a baby with a severed right arm. Prosecutors say Rosa Rodriguez was up to 32 weeks pregnant, past the time for a legal abortion.
Tonight, our Focus 4 report zooms in on the high-speed heroes who do everything from delivering babies to saving gunshot victims. They're the city's EMS ambulance crews. But Dawn Fratangelo is here to tell us EMS technicians are facing their own health crisis, one that comes from being human. Dawn?
That's right, Chuck. Thanks. Dealing with New York's emergencies can be overwhelming. A recent study has found suicides among the city's EMS personnel are 3 times higher than the average population. EMS workers believe society doesn't understand the pressures they encounter. So to get a better understanding, we decided to ride along.
Anybody that can tell you they walk away or they're cold to what happens, they'd be lying to you.
I don't really think suicide is an answer to anything, but I could see it building up to a climax such as that.
Every day they deal with trauma and tragedy. Emergency medical service workers are expected to save our lives, but how do they save their own sanity from a daily dose of death?
Jobs that involve children seem to be what always hang on to me.
It kind of gets to me, you know, like thinking that this might even, you know, one day happen to my son.
This year I had the first child out the window of the season.
It is just one of an estimated 1 million calls a year handled by New York's EMS, the busiest in the country. But there's now evidence the close contact to carnage is taking its toll. Last year, 3 EMS workers committed suicide. One of them was the first to respond to the Central Park jogger victim.
It's not surprising when any EMS worker commits suicide. An EMS worker has to fail by definition. They can't be successful all the time. Any risk business has a hit and miss rate. When the miss is life and death, the sense of responsibility and guilt is very high.
Incidents they find beyond them are ones which involve multiple casualties, like LaGuardia's U.S. air crash and the crushing deaths at CCNY. Incidents where EMS personnel have to make choices.
They are very tough decisions. That's what we're paid to do. We're paid to help the patient that has the best chance.
Can you talk to your wife about some of the stress of the job? Or is that
not really. She doesn't really have an understanding of the job, and most people that don't do it don't have an understanding of exactly what we go through.
We deal with death and destruction every day. After a while, people say, well, nobody really appreciates what I do. The guy that picks up your garbage is making more than I do to save your life. I think it's a point that hits home with a lot of people.
And that's another factor that adds to the stress. The average salary for New York's EMS workers is only $24,000 a year, far less than that for firefighters and police officers. The system does now have a counseling group to help deal with the pressures on the job. It is helping, but still, if EMS workers don't find their way into such a group, many know they will burn out before they get help. It's really a job where you have to vent. If you're dealing with, death or some kind of emergency every day, the workers say in some way, fashion, form, you have to vent that.
The city recognized the stress that is faced by firemen and police officers early on, but it took them a while to recognize this stress.
It did. I mean, it took a while for EMS workers to organize also as a union. And the counseling group has been in place for about 2.5 years. But they're finding that some of the workers aren't taking advantage of that. You're in a position of power when you're saving lives. If you go to a counseling group, it may be a sign of weakness, really, for them.
Dawn, thank you.
Well, there's much more ahead as we continue for you tonight, including Ira's forecast as we head toward the weekend.
Plus, we'll tell you about a flood of trouble for the casinos in Atlantic City. But first, let's roll the dice over to Len.
All right, we're hot. Coming up, welcome home as the Rangers' designated hitter comes back to the Garden tonight. Ty Domi. Seton Hall visits Georgetown. College basketball. What would you bid for Super Bowl tickets on the auction block? And we will go spanning the week. That's all coming up later in sports.
Discover the distinction of excellence at Joyce Honda. Throughout the years, Joyce Honda has been serving northern New Jersey with quality automobiles at affordable pricing. So, whether you're buying or leasing, Joyce Honda will satisfy all your transportation needs. How do I know so much about Joyce Honda? I'm Deborah Greco, and this is my mother, Joyce.
Our family's name and reputation go on every car we deliver.
Discover the distinction of excellence at Joyce Honda, Route 10, Denville, New Jersey.
February 5th and 6th.
Ladies and gentlemen,
live at the Meadowlands Arena.
The battle you've been waiting for.
It's Bigfoot versus Gravedigger. It's the Ford U.S. Hot Rod Motor Jam. Featuring Rompin' Stompin' Rough Trucks, a two-wheel drive shootout, plus Robo Wars, Torian versus the Alien, and more. All kids just $8. That's right, $8. 3 big shows, February 5th and 6th, Meadowlands Arena.
Well, in Atlantic City today, high rollers were left high and dry. A water main break cut off the water supply to many of the casinos. I suppose it was just as well if you lost your shirt because there wasn't any water to wash it in anyway. Those who did get water reported a reddish-brown tint. The break posed no health risks, we are told, and the situation, we are also told, is now under control.
Darn it, I'm glad about that. It's 11 o'clock. What can I
There
say?
you
Hi,
go.
Ira.
There you go. Hi, Sue, Chuck, Glenn. We have some weather about which to talk, and hence my presence here.
It's a little sheepish.
I do?
Yes. The weather isn't that bad, is it?
No, and even if it were, why would I
Be
feel
loud
sheepish?
and proud.
Okay, let's get on with this right now. Here's your forecast. Like it or lump it. There's Lincoln Center, and that's a fountain. Okay, our current is 36 degrees, the sky partly cloudy, and we still have a persistent 13-mile-an-hour northwest wind, 54% relative humidity, rising barometer 29.92 inches. Satellite picture, we're looking at the eastern seaboard as we fragment here a little bit closer. Briefly, high pressure is going to be with us. Then we see this clump of clouds in the Great Lakes. That's a low, started in Canada, going to push some clouds over us, and then a cold front tomorrow. It all boils down to this. I shouldn't use the word boil. It's so cold outside. It all adds up to this. Could have some snow flurries tumbling out of yon clouds. Our temperatures right now pretty consistently in the 30s after Central Park 44-degree high today, and we hit 31 on the low. Tonight we'll see some teens and 20s, I'm afeared. And when there are snow flurries, that's all that they will be here in the city. But farther to the north, could get a little bit of a coating, okay? And temperatures will fall back into the teens and 20s under a partly cloudy sky tonight. Northwest wind 15 to 20 miles an hour, will be west-northwest by morning at a somewhat more acceptable 10 to 15 miles an hour. It'll be partly sunny still, and temperatures struggling in the teens and 20s to climb tomorrow only into the 30s, and we'll have variable clouds, and it is from those clouds perhaps some flurries will fall, okay? And the wind ultimately from the southwest to 10 to 15 miles an hour. Here's that 5-day forecast that I wanted to share with you. It looks exactly like this. Tomorrow, variable clouds now, a high of 38 is expected. Then Friday will be partly sunny, 37 for the high. Saturday, right at the freezing mark and partly sunny. Sunday, 36 degrees, 4 degrees above the freezing mark. And Monday, partly sunny, back up to around 40. Could be even warmer than that in some places. You don't like the Bahamas? No. Talk about in our area.
Can I ask you the origin of the expression afeared?
Well, it was a colloquialism that I thought I would employ at that point. I felt that I was being a bit too stuffy, and so I decided to toss that in.
Thank you, Ira.
My pleasure, Suzanne.
Nothing escapes this woman.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Well, the heat is on a popular fast food restaurant chain tonight. We'll have the latest on an outbreak of food poisoning blamed on bad burgers.
Plus, what's old is new again, paving the way for recycling old toilets. When we come back.
Take a trip to Roma. Take a trip to Roma and discover a whole new world of magnificent furniture from Italy's finest manufacturers. Everything from the contemporary to the classic, including New York's finest selection of fabulous, soft, sumptuous Italian leather living rooms, beautiful mahogany and high-gloss lacquer bedrooms, and exquisite dining rooms, all at tremendous savings. 5 great locations: Brooklyn, Rockville Center, Staten Island, Paramus, and the Manhattan Superstore with 10 fabulous floors.
I call the line.
We call the line. I call the line.
Dial 1-800-347-DOLL and join in on the party. Live, exciting conversation with beautiful, interesting gals from all over America. The Party Line. It's better than ever before. You always have a friend to talk to when you call 1-800-347-DOLL. Only $2 per minute. Adults only.
The first lawsuits related to a food poisoning outbreak are being filed tonight. The outbreaks claimed 1 life and left hundreds of people sick in the Northwest. Hamburgers served at Jack in the Box restaurants are to blame. The suits are on behalf of a 5-year-old boy and a 21-year-old woman.
Our clients went to the Jack in the Box restaurants and expected to be sold a safe
hamburger or a safe cheeseburger, and they were not.
Some lawyers are even advertising for food poisoning victims who may want to sue. As many as 40,000 burgers were sold from potentially contaminated shipments. Jack in the Box today reports it has changed suppliers.
And right here in New York City, bad tuna. Officials are warning customers not to eat TMI albacore season brand tuna because it could cause botulism. The seafood company has ordered recall of the product, but some 200 jars have not been accounted for, and anybody who has the tuna is asked to return it to the store where it was bought. And a French toilet maker may still be in the running for a portable privy contract in New York. Its toilets were New York's most successful design and experiment in years, but only a few were accessible to the handicapped. The mayor's office wants all the paid toilets accessible to the handicapped, and it wants to award the contract to a company that will do that. But the city council says it might consider having only some toilets for the handicapped.
Well, in New York, the prospect of paid toilets on the streets means convenience. In Colorado, commodes are the latest thing in roads. Paul Day explains.
Did you ever wonder what happened to those old toilets? Instead of hauling them to a landfill, hundreds have been brought to this paving company in Boulder. The idea is to recycle them into new roads. The porcelain potties first had to be stripped clean of all rubber, plastic, and metal. The plan calls for mixing a few tons of toilets with thousands of tons of used asphalt. Grinding up the two together eliminates the slick surface and avoids any problem with bonding.
It's like a needle in a haystack. Nobody would ever be able to come back and find a part of a toilet after it goes through this process.
The end product is a powder-like recycled asphalt. It can be heated and applied as a new road surface or simply used as a road base. It's a novel concept, turning unwanted commodes into brand new roads. And if it doesn't raise a stink, who knows what other non-toxic trash can be hidden in our highways.
Who knows? Paul Day reports that roadways of the future may also be made of old rubber tires and, of course, glass.
Well, it's something you can use over and over again. A big hit at the video store will show you how some folk are firming their fannies.
And does Ty hold any grudges? Domi returns to... Who, Domi? Domi, thank you, returns to face his former teammates at the Garden. Len has sports when we return.
Yeah, they all look innocent enough until they start ganging up on you. Then you'll be glad you invested in the security of Jeep Grand Cherokee with all-the-time four-wheel drive, an optional V8, four-wheel anti-lock brakes, and an exclusive driver's side airbag. Because when you're outnumbered millions to one, you need all the help you can get. Test drive Jeep Grand Cherokee at your dealer now.
There's only one Jeep, and it's only at your tri-state Jeep and Eagle dealers.
The Maaco Supreme sale is on now. Our Supreme service is now twice as good at half price.
Now only $199.
Maaco Supreme Finish wraps your car in a new sunscreen coating that protects the rich, deep gloss. It's so durable, it's backed in writing by over 400 Maaco centers coast to coast.
Come to your local Maaco center and get a $399 Maaco Supreme deal, now only $199. Half price.
The Maaco Supreme paint sale. If that showroom shines your bottom line, get Maaco.
Look, would you? No, Mommy.
When you're mad enough to strike out at your kids, think about it. If you hit them, they'll learn to be afraid and probably to hit others. There's a better way than hitting. Learn it now, for your sake and your child's. Call for help and information. Face facts. You deserve help.
Why does her haircut cost $30 when his haircut only costs $10? Next Donahue, are women paying ridiculously higher prices than men for the same services? For what it costs her to dry clean this blouse, he could dry clean 2 shirts. Why? She buys a brand new car and could pay up to 40% more than him. Why? How can you spot these unfair practices in the marketplace? Ralph Nader tells you next Donahue.
Tomorrow at 4, only on WNBC 4 New York.
It's America's obsession, battling the bulge, and tonight the medical community has a new strategy to finding a healthier you. Researchers suggest measuring your waist. If you have an apple shape, waist bigger than your hips, it's time to diet. But if you sport a pear-shaped hips bigger than the waist, you're okay. Researchers think this strategy is more reliable than height weight charts.
Interesting. Time for sports. Len's here. Got the Rangers in action.
Here we go. The Rangers first learned that Brian Leach is out at least 6 more weeks. Then they lost 2 more defensemen during the game. But they did wind up beating hot Winnipeg 5-2 at the Garden. The return of Ty Domi, the former Rangers slugger, renewing acquaintances before the game. During the game, there were no scraps. He did have this golden chance to score against Mike Richter, but shot it wide. Add Jay Wells to the injury list. He'll be out 6 weeks after injuring his knee on this play. James Patrick will also miss 2 weeks with a knee injury. Now, midway third period, tied 2-2. Jan Eriksson, shorthanded, beats Bob Essensa. Then he added another one, and the Rangers went on to win it 5-2. Manute Bol was fined $3,500 for a swing and a miss last night at the Garden. And tonight in Minnesota, can Charles Barkley hit for 3 at the end of the half? Oh, terrific shot. And Phoenix wound up winning by 1 in overtime. They have the league's best record at 29-8. College ball tonight at Georgetown. Georgetown in the home gray, and they forced the Seton Hall turnover. Some good Hoyas passing to Robert Churchwell. All Georgetown tonight. They beat Seton Hall 73-62. At Manhattan, 30 seconds to go. Jasper's down 1. Jamal Marshall with the follow. Manhattan takes the lead. Now Siena down 2. Doremus Bennerman at the buzzer. No good. Manhattan beats Siena tonight 64-62. Dan Reeves has brought Mike Nolan from Denver to be his defensive coordinator with the Giants. Darryl Talley of Buffalo had said he got banged up in an accident at home. Now it's reported that he got punched out by Magic Johnson's bodyguard at a Los Angeles nightclub. Magic was not there. Talley denies it ever happened. In Dallas tonight, 400 tickets to the Super Bowl went on the auction block to the highest bidder.
I've got 5, 696. 4 425, once, twice, 3 times, 425, and I have sold it $400.
Well, some happy customers. Tickets owned by people who could not make the game. One 50-yard line pair went for $800. In Australia, Monica Seles reaches the finals 6-1, 6-2 over Sabatini, and Graf is about to eliminate Sanchez in the other semi. So what were the top recent sports stories? Let's go spanning the week.
It's spanning the world. It's the mini-series.
And the best shot, of course, you can't beat Doc Rivers of the Knicks. Tremendous. How about some golf? This is Robin Freeman in Tucson. Can he chip it in?
Yep.
Yeah, sure, why not? But Phil Mickelson had the shot of the year. I know, it's only January. From 100 yards away, and this one may hold up the entire 12 months. At Santa Anita, jockey Martin Pedrosa on the left lost his whip. He uses his hand to whip the horse. That doesn't work. So he takes his cap off and starts beating the horse with that. For his efforts, he dropped back to 3rd place. Nice try. Speaking of efforts, Ken Norman of the LA Clippers. Look at the fan. First row wisely vacates the seat. Norman comes over, and he checks out with the guys drinking in the 2nd row. Nah. The best ending in Miami. Pittsburgh inbounds. Everybody's open. Miami's too late getting back from their timeout. So Pittsburgh tied the game in the final seconds. So now Miami brings the ball up court trying to win. And Pittsburgh steals it away. 2 baskets in the last few seconds to win it, just when you think you've seen it all.